see if it pops up here.
On my end, there's always it's a more severe delay, I think, than just about everybody else. Mine is even worse than Dow. Yeah, it's about 15 seconds. I guess it's not just terrible.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it your internet or what makes yours so delayed?
I think that's probably part of it. I think it's also probably just I'm on the extreme West Coast. I'm in Seattle, so the muskrats, the mice that are powering this thing or whatever, they're not pedaling quite as fast. Hey, what's up, Mike's Tool Shed? What's up, Jeremiah? How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, Mike's Tool Shed. I like that guy's channel.
I do too. He kind of just went for it right off the bat. I thought, yeah, there's something to that. What's up, TJ? H&H Country. How you doing, buddy? I'm going to wait for a couple more people to get in here, and then I have a quick disclaimer to issue so that you guys can kind of help out if you stick around throughout the whole chat. I have a prior commitment here, so I'm not going to be able to hang out much longer than probably about 4:15 or so my time. But if we don't cover everything that everybody wants to cover, eventually we'll revisit the topics that need further consideration.
Yes.
What's up, Gary D? How you doing, man?
Yeah, you doing?
So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of you in here now. So the quick disclaimer, this is Junkie and I have already talked a couple times this week, and there's only one subject that's really we're not going to delve into, and that has to do with Jay Young. The stance on that, and all we can really tell people is he's got a lot of stuff going on. He's busy right now, and he is off YouTube. He's taking a break from YouTube. So that's the only thing that we're not going to address any further. Now, if anybody comes in after this and they missed out on me saying that and they ask that question, I'm going to rely on you guys in the chat right now, whoever sticks around, hopefully. Jeremiah, I'm looking at you here, buddy, because you tend to stick around for the longest amount of time. If you could kind of just help out in the chat box and answer that one. If the person doesn't have a blue wrench, because a lot of people aren't really up to date, they'll look for his channel and they think, oh, what happened? And so they're kind of not up to speed anyway. Don't be harsh with them. It's not anything to get too bent out of shape about. Just tell him, hey, he's on a break right now, and Junkie's not addressing that, and MD Lee 52 is not addressing that any beyond that. But I have kind of an outline I put together of questions or topics that I wanted to hit with Junkie. So we're gonna follow my outline for a while anyway, and then we're gonna eventually open stuff up to questions from everyone. So if that sounds good to everybody, and Junkie, if that sounds to you, without further ado, I'll just kind of launch into questions.
Yeah, that sounds good. The Jay Young topic is, I just feel like he needs some personal space right now, and that's what he did. And then he didn't really mean to delete his channel. He just didn't understand what hide it or permanent meant. That's the only thing that he messed up.
Right. So he's, as far as we're aware, everything, he's hanging in there and, running his own business, but he is taking a break right now. So,
yes.
Look, we had a really successful, I don't really go off of numbers, but if I'm going off of numbers and going off of engagement and interest, we had a really successful chat a week ago, and it was complete spur of the moment. I've had contact with you. I've IM'd back and forth with you a couple times over the last few months, and kind of know you from the comment section of your videos. But that was total last minute thing, and we vibed pretty good there for about an hour and 45 minutes, and people wanted to know more. So I think that one of the topics that got the most interest was just YouTube in general. Just briefly describe, I know most everybody in here and people who are going to see this, understand this, but just kind of explain what motivated you to do YouTube and the overarching theme or the overarching vision for what your channel is and what you do day in, day out on YouTube. What got you started, and why are you still doing it? And what are you all about?
Okay, so the reason that I started my channel is that I've watched YouTube for a long period of time. I've picked up on things that I'm interested in. So I was interested in golf for a while. Then I was collecting shoes for a while, and I was watching a lot of shoe channels. And then I started, when I bought my own business, I needed to get tools, and I was trying to find videos about how to be a business owner, how to run a trucking business. And there was nothing really out there. But then I started watching guys like Bruce, Jay Young, Joel, and these guys came up, they were interesting, that they were just normal guys. So I thought, well, shit, why don't I just get off my ass and stop watching YouTube and then learn how to make videos? And also, YouTube is a great way to learn raw entry level marketing ability and things like that. So I thought about making my channel for a couple months, and then I had all these Snap-on tools, and then out there, I never saw a guy that focused just on one thing. Everybody kind of was all over the place, So I thought maybe there would be a niche that if I showed just people all Snap-on stuff, or, it's kind of involved into a higher end, I guess I'd be considered I'm the luxury tool brand guy, maybe.
Yeah.
If you get what I'm saying,
yeah.
So, and then it kind of morphs into doing the truck videos and repair videos. And that's really because people ask, because, you can't just show people buying tools all the time. You at least got to show them how they work and all that stuff. And that's what I'm really good at, is A, would be problem solving skills, and B is understanding fundamentals of how things go together. And that's what I like. That's what I enjoy.
Yeah, I was one of the people clamoring early on. I think you made that series of videos with I'm gonna forget his name again. I forget it every time. The mechanic.
Jim.
Jim. When you came out with those videos, I thought, oh man, this is just spectacular. And people could go look at the comment section of the first video, and I think I commented on every one and said, I really like this. This was kind of I don't know if you remember back in the day, Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. They used to show it. They used to show it on public broadcasting, and it was, what's his face? I forget who the host of that was, but he would always narrate what was going on, a voiceover narration of what was happening. And, that was one of the more in-depth big truck repair videos, but you've done other stuff like that.
Yeah, because there really isn't nobody out there there's a lot of guys doing cars and stuff like that, but nobody really tackles big truck stuff. And the big truck stuff is similar, but way different. It's just heavier and more beefier, what I'm saying? So I picture YouTube, it's just a constant evolution of change, and you have to be willing to change your not your necessary vision of your YouTube channel, but change what your content is a little bit. You can't keep giving people the same thing over and over. They'll get burnt out and stop watching.
Right.
That's my theory.
Keeping viewer interest. This might be a good time. Well, no, I'm going to wait a little bit. Okay, so that's kind of your motivation, your vision, your theme. What other goals do you have for YouTube? You brought one up when we were talking the other day, specifically you want to make money. Obviously, you monetize your videos. Do you have any specific goals in mind, kind of from that end?
Well, I started YouTube because I have a goal of using it as an advertising tool for my company too. So there's two things. I would like to get it to make me enough money a month that I could go out and afford a new dump truck, because that payment will be anywhere from $3,500 to $4,000. That's what it is if you bought a new truck, because they cost $225,000. So I thought that I could use YouTube to help supplement that income, so it doesn't take away from my main business, and it makes your profit of your business look a little bit better. Like, if you get what I'm saying. So it's like, I'm getting, even though that a bank won't rely on your $4,500 a month YouTube money, but you kind of know that it's coming in. If it was, $2,500, I could live off that $2,500 a month, and I could use what I'm taking out to purchase a new truck. And then, as kind of it's evolved, I've used the YouTube as a demonstration of my skills for local people here that would like to get their trucks fixed. So you can use YouTube as that and say, hey, look, like, this is what I do. I have everything to do it. Here's a video of me being successful. And, we did, you can see that the truck has never came back, or I fixed my own in a very similar way. And it just, it's almost free it's almost like getting paid to advertise for your business is really what it is, if you use it for that.
And we talked about this in private conversation, and my point was, look, very few people, my family's kind of weird. We always like watching like the Ronco infomercials, that the Hollywood Grill, let's see, is the thing going to do the rotisserie right this time, or is it going to, make a mistake? But very few people really like to watch an infomercial if they know that it's an infomercial. And I didn't even realize when I watched that whole series of videos of you and Jim doing the engine rebuild on that big truck, I didn't even think in the back of my mind, oh, you're going to be able to show this. So when you brought that up to me, I thought, wow, you talk about a way of just, subliminal advertising, and product placement, so to speak. What a great way to do it. And people got something out of it too. It wasn't like you were just trying to sell them something. You were educating the masses, so to speak, too. And you just kind of, add that in at the end that, yeah, hey, I can do this for you too if you need me to.
Yeah, and it looks, because some people are scared, like, it takes a little bit to build your reputation. Now, if you were showing videos where you've been successful, or, whatever, then that's a great form of free advertising marketing thing. And it's worked. People have, watched my videos. I mean, a lot of people out there know that I have the Snap-on Junkie page, and that I work with, and they, trust me to repair their stuff. A lot of people say that I should probably stop driving and focus more on fixing things for everybody out there than, driving. But I have to drive right now because I can't afford to have another driver, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get it. You kind of mentioned that the other day, that Jim was, interested if you eventually transition more into that. I guess it wouldn't preclude you from doing both. You could run the trucking company and do the engine rebuilding, but it's all in, how many drivers you happen to have access to at that particular time.
Yeah, and having the money to initially get that trucking thing going. Like, I got to be able to pay Jim his salary, when in the beginning, if we had 5 or 6 lined up that we were doing, it would be worth that. So it's kind of like trying to start another business off of what I'm doing. And I would say that in the future, that's what I'm looking to do.
Yeah, that's legit. So in terms, I guess one of the questions I had, transition here a little bit, and no, we don't need an SB for the transition that we're doing. But I guess, what are your influences when you look at your channel and you look at the things that you're doing? I don't mean to seem too, highfalutin here, but like artistically, who are your influences on YouTube? Who do you watch day in, day out, and who do you kind of look to and maybe pattern yourself after? What are your influences?
Okay, so obviously, if you want to be successful on YouTube, you start looking around. You watch other people's channel that are successful. So I watch a couple different channels. I watch this guy, Mr. Fomer Simpson. He's a shoe guy. I like how him and his brother interact together and everything like that. In their editing of their videos, they edit a lot of funny stuff in there. Obviously, I love AVE. I get a lot of
everybody does.
A lot of, you can pick, his style is one of the greatest. And I've been watching Adam A-Bomb 79. I like his style. He's real, he's a clean cut dude, but he shows you mechanical type things in his machine shop. And that's, who I watch a lot. I know that I'm not a Garnett type video expert. Like, I would never do anything like that. I'm just not that good or want to spend that much time making one video.
Yeah, no, I totally get where you're at. He's Garnett. When I saw probably his first 3 videos right in a row, there's a knife guy who's been on YouTube for a number of years. I think the channel is called The Edge Observer, and it's the same style of video that Garnett does. What Garnett does with tools, this guy does with knives. But I mean, as far as being labor intensive, I don't know how Garnett does that. That's truly a labor of love with him, but also he's not going to be able to produce the videos and the kind of numbers that you're doing, where you're trying to knock out, X number per week.
Yeah, I feel like if you want to be successful on YouTube, you have to do maybe 2 to 3 videos a week, to build your, so it's more consistent is really what, if you watch people that consistently put out videos, they gain a lot of subscribers because you keep touching more and more each video per se.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, on that vein, you mentioned to me, and I don't want to prematurely get into this topic, but the conversation lends itself, so I'll go this direction. You mentioned to me about somebody specific who you'd watch, kind of, not AVE level as far as subscriber base, not even Snap-on Junkie level as subscriber base. You talked about the technical aspect of like looking at Hard Knocks videos, and you were offering suggestion. Can you talk about that and talk about the thing with the tags and some of the kind of tricks that you've noticed that work?
Okay, so I was looking at Hard Knocks' channel. He has fixed it now, but what he was doing is he was putting a whole bunch of tags in there. That how he was doing it was just writing like Will or Wildy Craftsman and making these huge long tags and then putting a comma at the end. So how the YouTube tag works is that you just want to put Snap-on, comma, then go over and put, Mac Tools, comma. So after each one, there's a comma, and that's what YouTube recognizes as a tag, and that's how you get your, if you have 500 subscribers, that's how you grow your channel, is by using those channel tags per se. But you have to make the tags relevant to what you're talking about. If you're talking about Snap-on tools, but then you put a Harbor Freight tag and all that stuff, it doesn't, work out, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. I actually remember when they kind of that started early on with YouTube, them encouraging you. I've been in since 16. Can't forget that, but they started encouraging people early on to use tags, and there were kind of the kind of the tricks of the trade. What other little things have you used? I mean, we talk about kind of some of the periphery that comes along with it, the advertising aspect. Have there been any other things that you've done or you've learned to try to build the business of YouTube that people who are, more on the starting out end of the spectrum could benefit from?
Okay, so first thing, remember that I said 10 to 15 minute videos. Okay, YouTube algorithm likes that. Also, consistency. If you're going to do one video a week, then do one video a week. If you want to do 3 videos a week, do 3 videos a week. Stay consistent. Have kind of a schedule in your brain. That's another way to do it. Also, if you want to get noticed really fast, Oso did this. He was the first one that did some comparison videos, on the Harbor Freight stuff, and he got a lot of views on that because, again, there was not that many videos like that out there.
Right, yeah, he got in right away.
Also, be entertaining. I think that if you want to grow your channel, you got to have some excitement about it. It can't just be blah or bleh. It's not going to go very far. You're only going to take that so much. You're going to get to the 5,000 mark and stall out. You know what I'm saying? And another thing, use other forms of social media to promote your videos, because everybody likes to be involved. The more that they, I've opened up my whole life, basically. And the more that people can get a sense of maybe who you are, they're going to like you more, if you get what I'm saying, MD Lee, maybe. So that's why you have, the Facebook group, the Instagram, stuff like that. You're broadening your social media outreach so you can reach more people.
Yeah, I totally get it. You're trying to diversify and cast as wide a net as possible. I want to dial down on this because when I ran through this in my head, I could see this becoming a really hot button part of the chat, because as a channel grows in popularity as far as subscriber base is concerned, you're going to have more fans, so to speak, but you're going to have more supporters, but you're also going to have more detractors. You're gonna have some haters, hopefully. It's like they say, if you're catching flack, that's how you know you're over the target. But yes. Talk just a bit, kind of drill down on the subject of amplifying your personality for entertainment purposes, so to speak, in order to hold people's attention.
Okay, so what I like to do in my videos is I change the intro music every time, because people will ask you, man, what is that intro music? So, I'm trying to figure out different ways. And I would say I experiment a lot, but what I like to do is, just like a regular TV show or sitcom, break your segments up into a beginning, middle, and an end, if you get what I'm saying, and slide good parts into the beginning, middle, and end. So you have to, in the first minute, you have to catch their excitement. Then you have to carry that along for 10, 15 minutes. And, like how, you can find clips of funny stuff, like I did the Hell to the No guy.
Yeah.
I've done some Ric Flair stuff. And I'm working on some stuff with, like, I want to do the Scott Hall Hey Yo.
Hey Yo.
Hey Yo, because I think that's entertaining and funny. And
I gotta interject here and interrupt. This is important to note. You're bringing up names here that not everybody's going to be familiar with, but you just said Ric Flair, and then you followed that with Scott Hall. So the commonality here is wrestling. So people kind of need to keep this in mind, and this is something that I picked up on, having been a wrestling fan big time in my youth, and still kind of pay attention to the history of it and so on. this is an aspect of your videos that I don't know that everybody is picking up on, and that is, you kind of have your junkie gimmick, so to speak. You have the character, which is a natural extension of one particular aspect of your personality, but it's that particular aspect amplified. And I think people, if they view your channel and view your video through that lens, it's a lot more understandable. You start to think, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yes, what you're doing is you're, like, let's say you have a level of MD Lee that's 1 through 10. So to get along in real life, you need to be walking around at a 3 and a 4. Well, I walk around as a 7 all the time. Like, I am a wild dude. I will say whatever the fuck I want to say, and it doesn't really bother me. I'm more of a, if I'm upset with you, you're going to know it instantly, because I'm going to tell you.
Right.
I took my YouTube as an extension of my personality. Yes, you're playing a little bit of a character to some point, but it's not that far away from really who I am. And I do believe that AVE does that a lot too, is his channel is an extension of his personality, of who he is. There's other people's channels that do that too. You just turn it up a notch. Like the old wrestling thing, you have, what do they call it? Heels and baby faces.
Yep. Working heel or working baby.
Yes. Okay. And you're trying to be, you're trying to appeal to both groups, and theoretically, and that's hard to, that's a fine line to get.
Right.
Mike's Tool Shed is a great way. I think that his, you've seen him come on, and he's showing you his level of personality through his videos, just about how he does like that. And I feel like it's the same thing. He walks around at like a 5, but the videos are a 7 or an 8 of his personality scale, maybe. I really don't know, but that's how I look at YouTube. It's supposed to be fun and exciting, and it's just another way of you perfect. You got to get your point across without shit. I don't know the best word to describe that. You're trying to get your viewpoint out there, your opinion.
Yeah, you're just amplifying an aspect of your personality to convey what you're saying with as much force as possible and hold people's attention.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's understandable, and some of the misunderstanding I've seen come up about, look, like we said, the more viewers you get, the more supporters, the more detractors you're going to have. But people need to realize that a lot of the time this is a work, so to speak, in the wrestling sense. You're doing what you're doing to try to hold people's attention, and that's important for channels that are starting out to realize that if they're going to hit that maximum effect 10 to 15 minute video where they're maximizing their advertising revenue, so to speak, you can't stay at a 10 the entire time. Maybe they're going to have to move between a 5 and a 9 or whatever. They're going to have to find that sustainable balance, but you have to keep people's attention.
Yes, that's the biggest thing, is how do you keep their attention to get your whole point across, or what you're trying to convey in your show. And that's what I consider this YouTube is my own television show that I could never get on a TV channel, but I can get it on YouTube for some reason, if you think about that.
Yeah, it's your own gimmick.
It's your own gimmick.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and I'm going to kind of come back to what we're talking about here. But when you look, and I don't want you to offer public critiques of people, but when you look at people who are more in the beginning stages of it than you are, you talked about what some of your, influences, the people that you watch who are established. What are the newer people? You've already kind of brought up a few of them, but who are the newer people starting out that you watch?
I kind of watch just a certain thing. I've been watching Hard Knocks a little bit. I've watched you. I've watched the Flat Rate Master. I don't understand a lot of times what he's talking about, but I've never worked in a flat rate shop, so I mean that could be useful. I've watched the Mechanic Man 92, but he kind of quit. I watch a lot of people, but I'd say that I'm not subscribed to everybody. It's just, it's really hard. There's a lot of content out there, but I can count on a couple hands, of videos that I get excited to see. You know what I'm saying?
So what are your, I mean, I'm not going to ask who do you have the bell clicked on, but when you see a new video come up, who are the must see right away? Who's that list for you?
Okay, the ones that I watch right away, I don't have the bell clicked on really anybody. I'm not really a bell clicker. I'm constantly on YouTube, so I watch. Eric O, I watch every one of his things throughout. I really like Leaks Auto Repair for some reason because I see he's like me, exactly like me. I love the channel. AVE is a much watched, and I watch A-Bomb 79. Those are my must watch guys.
Okay. Hard Knocks is saying here in the chat, use me, critique me. If anybody wants, well, I don't want to expose you to any liability here, but you've already offered kind of critiques. You're up for doing that, right? If it's the right person, if it's Hard Knocks, if it's Oso, if they want to drop you a line and say, hey, what do you think I could be doing better? You're willing to, you've watched enough of their stuff. You're willing to spend 5 or 10 minutes and kind of reply and just give them notes, right?
Yeah. And, I talked to you about Hard Knocks channels tags because I was like, man, this guy could, because I understand a little bit from what you told me that he's really trying to, grow his channel. And he has a little niche that he's kind of carved out, but he doesn't really realize it. Hard Knocks is a great dude at finding deals.
Yep, right? He is. Yes.
He could be like the local rummage picker, like
that show American Pickers. He could kind of do his YouTube take of that from his personality.
YouTube, you know what I'm saying? Because Hard Knocks is good. He's got his taglines and how he opens his stuff and how he ends his program and all that stuff. And that's very AVE-esque, don't send me any pink panties because they won't fit. But, so he's on to something there. But he, Hard Knocks is, he does, his editing is, he probably needs to tighten that up just a little bit or come up with his own style, maybe not use pirated software so he can cut down his video making time.
Well, we're going to kind of get into this a little bit later from the business aspect, but I mean, Hard Knocks is following the low budget startup model, which I tend to support, but I understand right away why you're coming at it from a different viewpoint.
Yeah, think of YouTube as a business. And if you treat it as a business, you're going to get more return on your investment.
Yeah.
That's what I've done. I've invested a lot into my YouTube channel. And it's definitely, I've invested more than I've got out. But I'm also building something for the future.
And this kind of goes to what we're going to talk about a little bit later with the business stuff. You're building infrastructure and you're also building YouTube infrastructure. I have I have a technical question. From the financial end of it, is the YouTube stuff you keep separate, so to speak, from the rest of your business, or is it a, quote unquote division of your existing business? How is it you handle that?
It is just, I incorporate it into my business for some tax reasons. Okay.
Yeah.
When I everything, the tax ID number that I put into YouTube, Amazon, all that shit is my business tax ID. So at the end of the year, I treat YouTube as just a subsidiary business of my regular company, and I can write off some of the stuff that I bought, like a camera, things like that, and it just lower, I do that for tax purposes, really.
Right.
I'm the same thing. Justin Circle Trucking and the Snap-on Junkie on YouTube are the same person. So I keep it together, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
When my YouTube money goes into a savings account every month, and then my wife takes it out and pays bills.
There you go. So even though you're the boss, really in the end, the boss gets the money, the real boss.
The real boss. And I'm not one to, like, she's inside right now and I'm outside. So, like, yeah, I'll carry a big stick, but she's in charge of all the paperwork, everything that goes on.
Yeah, you're a smart man.
Yep. She handles all the money situation. I strictly do repair, maintenance, and make videos and stuff like that.
Yeah, I get it. Let's do another kind of a transition here. So I've kind of been thinking about the right way to approach it, and in all honesty, I would rather approach it as a positive than a negative. But I've kind of been compiling people's requests, questions that I've seen come up over the last 5 or 6 months. So I'm just going to get right into it, and hopefully nobody gets bent out of shape, but it's something that people want covered. You've kind of, like we said, you've had your, you've had your rivalries in the whole YouTube thing. Nestor, what's your history with Nestor?
Okay, my history.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, my history with Nestor is that I watched a lot of his videos, and I just felt like there was more to the story. Like, you were only giving me 40% of what's really going on. Like, you didn't divulge and open up your whole story. So then me and Bruce had him on the debate station, and to me, he just came off as a very arrogant asshole motherfucker. And like he wanted to be like, like turn it into a street fight, because he always talks about that he's a man and that, men should do this type of stuff. And I just thought, dude, we're not looking for a motivational speaker channel. They're looking for a guy to talk about his success and failures in business and show what he's going on all day, not an extension of what book you read this fucking week and how that makes you feel like you're more than a man. It was very sexist, like, attitude towards me, or towards, I have a feeling that's how, he lives his life. Like, a man should be in charge and a woman should do everything that a man says. And that necessarily doesn't fly with me, because I've seen women do more than men multiple times, and that was really the thing. So I started looking around and investigating.
Women are generally harder workers than men.
What?
Women are, I have to interject. I mean, from my experience, women, generally speaking, are harder workers than men.
Guaranteed. And they do more than what they really get credit for. And there's a lot of smart women out there that have ran businesses, and done it very successfully. Now, they don't get a lot of opportunity because we have kind of a sexist attitude for them, or towards, a lot of men have a sexist attitude towards women. And I feel in 2017 that really is not necessarily the case of what's going, like the true feeling that I have deep down. So that's one of the problems I have with Nestor is I just don't feel like he opens up and tells us everything. And plus, the guy has never finished one project that he started yet. And I just don't think anybody else has caught on to that. Like, dude, like this is a lot of bullshit here. Like, you keep telling us.
I gotta challenge you though on that one a little bit. I mean, here's the problem with YouTube. Not very many people are showing everything that's going on with YouTube. Do you know for a fact that he hasn't finished all that stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, he started building that. He's never showed any updates, right? He's going to have the greatest podcast that YouTube has ever seen. And, he was building a loft up there and on the top, but he's never finished it, And then with his car, his Mustang, people always ask, and he says, no, I've never finished it. So why aren't you finishing it? Is it because you don't have enough money coming into your business every day when you have so much overhead that he really does have? If you've heard what he pays for shop rent and knowing what I know about like the car business and the trucking business, math is, you got to be, the math does not add up. And a lot of people not asking those questions. And if they do ask those questions on his page, he gets really upset, really defensive, and fucking calls them stupid or whatever. He degrades a lot of his viewers a lot of the time. If you've watched his live streams and
okay. Let me ask though, just kind of set this up historically. Had you ever talked to him one-on-one, or how before you and Bruce had him on the debate station? How much contact did you had with Nestor?
I wrote him a couple comments and asked him some questions on his YouTube page, but he never wrote back or anything like that. I guess I wasn't part of the boys group, as he calls it. The 500 people that love everything he does, but I've never talked to him one-on-one. I would. One night I wanted to call into the show, but I could never get through or whatever. I was going to ask him some of these questions, just to, kind of feel it out. Like, dude, like what's really going on here? Like if you give me some of the backstory, maybe I'll believe some of the front story,
Yeah.
That's kind of how I work.
I got to ask, the community demands to know, what's up with the trolling?
Okay, so the trolling thing, it was what I said, but it was an account that me and one of my employees started. And after the debate station, Nestor started, basically calling me an idiot and a lot of different things. So it was like, okay, well, I don't want to go on there and call him, from my thing. So me and my employee would be sitting at the shop and we'd watch the videos because he was watching my channel, and he's like, dude, this guy runs a Jiffy Lube Plus and he's sitting here talking all this shit. So, they wrote that comment, he wrote that comment from, basically me saying it without saying it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's really what that was about.
There were conspiracy theories going on. One time I was in his live stream in the chat box and he accused me. He said, MD Lee 52, you could be Junkie for all I know. And my response, based on your replies with him or what whoever it was that was trolling said, I told him, well, I'm not functionally illiterate. I mean, I have a lot of clarity when I write things in the chat box. That's one thing I pride myself on. But that was something that he pointed out and numerous people pointed out was the, grammatical syntax or whatever, whoever that was from a troll account, that was how they were identifying it as you.
Yeah, and then there for a while, anybody that trolled him was just me with a fake account,
Literally or figuratively, you're actually saying that you did that for multiple accounts?
Well, no, there was only my employee had that account.
Oh, okay. So you're saying that you took the blame. You did quite a bit, but you kind of were taking the blame for stuff that you weren't necessarily doing.
yes, that I was not in. Like, trolled his account or came in, it was always the Snap-on Junkie under a fake account name. You know what I'm saying? There for a while. But then, you know, like he kind of, I guess he got bored or thought that he was, you know, more intelligent than everybody else and all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
Because
when I say just for the viewers, I'm trying to kind of stay impartial, and obviously I've got my own thoughts. But when I say I'm just acknowledging what you're saying. I'm not saying I necessarily agree. Okay.
No, I get it. You know, everybody wants to know, you know, of who it is and things like that. But that's who it was, and I said that in a video, so I'd everything. I would tell him all this stuff again. You know, it doesn't really. If he was standing next to me, I would tell him, you know, that he, you know, does smoke a cigar like a fag. I mean, there's nothing new about that. You know, you look kind of gay, and that's all I'm saying. I mean, I would do that. I would tell anybody, if I reply to a hater comment, whether they were standing next to me or across the world on YouTube, I will tell you the exact same thing. I don't care.
So you're saying then that you always keep it 100?
Yeah, you know, I've told my friends, you know, I've lost a lot of friends because of, if they do something stupid, I will tell them. You know, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't have a close social group that I deal with because our life paths are on two different tractions, and you know, when they do idiotic things, I will tell them in not so nice way that was completely fucking stupid. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, what you're saying is there's not a lot of nuance to your opinions on people. When you get to the point where you're willing to make a value judgment on somebody, you're not exactly a velvet hammer. You're just going to be really blunt.
Yeah, no, I'm not a 16-ounce hammer. I'm a 50-pound sludge. You know, like, I will tell you the truth and then just walk away, and it's no sweat off what I've got going on. If you get what I'm saying, it doesn't bother me to do that.
It's no skin off your nose. It's no hair off your back.
Correct.
Yeah. How much time did you invest in this? I'm kind of interested in this from kind of a technical aspect, the trolling stuff. So it wasn't you trolling from multiple accounts. It was you and an employee of yours from one particular account. But I mean, how much of a time investment was that?
It was really nothing. He had an account. He just changed his name, you know, to the funny name that we came up with.
Which was?
And the Badass.
Yeah.
Okay, then we you know, like.
Is that a Howard? I got to know. Is that a Howard Stern show reference?
No, you know, because a badass is a dude that comes in and just tells you how it is.
Okay.
Leaves. You know what I'm saying?
I had to know. I don't know if anybody else would have picked up on me, but there's kind of a Howard Stern connotation from about 10 years ago or so with a whole backstory, and I thought that would be a number of layers deep, and I would find it funnier. I kind of find it humorous. I would find it more humorous if you really devoted a lot of time to trolling him, because I would think, you know, it really must have been worth something to you. So I guess in a way I'm kind of let down to know that it wasn't from multiple accounts and you really didn't spend much time on it. But anyway.
It was really like, you know, like, holy fuck, like, listen to this shit, you know, like, everybody has multiple accounts out there, and if you think that they don't, then, you know, that's your issue.
Yeah.
You know?
I don't take somebody seriously unless they have like a minimum 3 accounts. I mean, I wouldn't even talk to them if I knew that. So
yeah, you know,
your A game.
You have to have, and think about it like this. You know, I could have easily said those things from my page, but what does that do for your YouTube persona, right? Does that hurt it a little bit? Yeah, you gotta have some level of disconnect. Like, you know, I can't get on my channel and just start bashing everybody else's channel, because then what does that say? That, you know, I'm better than them? No, you can't do that. It would be difficult to keep your, you know, your channel somewhat pure of what you're trying to get your point across to. But there has to be, you know, like, the way I look at trolls is if you're going to troll us content creators and you have zero content, well, then obviously, you know, you have no leg to stand on, because you really don't know.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. The obvious question is, if you're going to keep it 100 all the time, why not do it from your own account? So basically what you're saying is, are you admitting to that you didn't want to detract from that other account, or you didn't want to do it in order for people to think that you were trying to raise the profile of, you know, your official account, or what exactly was the rationale?
Two thinkings, okay? So, you don't want to... Controversy can drive views, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
We've seen that over the last couple of months, yes.
Yes, okay, so controversy can drive views. So, if you don't, like... If I went on there and said all this shit through my page, well, then people would just be going and say, well, the only reason you're trolling him is so you get more views to your page and all that shit. Not what I'm trying to do. If you watch, you watch. If you don't, you don't. You know, it doesn't really matter to me. You know, so I didn't want that to be like the thing. And I've left some comments on Nestor's page after all this with my own, you know, with the Snap-on Junkie thing, and he does not respond to them. So I let it go. You know what I'm saying? Obviously, there's two differences of opinions, and the way that I truly feel about him is that there was an old saying in drag racing: there is a lot of smoke in mirrors there. And you have to see a bunch of smoke and mirrors before you'll really recognize what smoke and mirrors really is. Or
okay. And I don't know. I don't know if it's possible or not for you to get to a better Wi-Fi signal, but just so you know, your picture is kind of intermittent. But I need to ask, because here's my take on Nestor, who I don't know, I probably watched him for the last 9 or 10 months. I've liked his channel, and I've heard people complain, you know, the quote unquote egotistical aspect of it or whatever. But also, I've seen him at times be brutally honest about his own failures in some of his videos, and that personally for me holds a lot of weight. I sent up front, you know, overly confident brat. I think that, you know, maybe that's an aspect of his personality that he's dialing up. Like you're kind of doing the pro wrestling gimmick. Maybe this is his version of that, because it's not a 100% proposition of, oh, do everything I say because I know everything because I've always made the right decision. It's, you know, a 70-30 split or a 75-25. And you guys, you and Nestor view business from very different viewpoints. You know, he's talked about some of the reasons why he gives people advice to keep their costs low and not buy things you don't need and not get into debt. You know, that's his business model. He had I'm not going to get too far off on a tangent, but I was thinking the other day, he made a video about a scanner that he bought. I want to say he spent somewhere in the neighborhood of $20,000 on this scanner. And when he bought it, he bought it especially to do European cars, and he thought at the time that was a market that he was going to target, and this scanner was going to help him make X amount of money, and he financed it, and it was a number of years ago, and he said what his payment was. His payment was several $100s a month on this scanner, and he used that as a personal failure of his, a business failure of his. And he said, this is one of the reasons I don't give advice like this to buy all this stuff. It's because I've made that mistake. So, you know, when people can go back and reference the debate station video, and I think the general consensus was, at least from the debate aspect of that, he was better at debating than you were. But you guys are philosophically opposing views on business. You know, you have your experiences, he has his. Talk about that, why you think your model of doing that would be superior to his model.
Well, what I see is that if you want to run a successful business, you have to come up with a plan and a strategy. And no matter what the decision is, good or bad, you have to work that strategy. Now, where I picked up a lot of my business aspect is that you guys got to really realize, for 10 years, I worked with people that were not millionaires, but billionaires. Okay. And just by watching how they do business, you can pick up a lot of things. And the people that were successful were the ones that did not, if they had to invest $3 million to make $2 million, they did it. But they did it in a, you know, they built their business on infrastructure. So they all started following a model of one guy. And you can see that nowadays they've all, you know, every team has, if you're going to be successful, every team has done that by making their own parts, controlling inventory, controlling all that. So when I started my business, I said I have to be able to function with I have to take as less money as I can and invest every dollar I make back into my company to get it to a certain level. And then 3 or 4 years down the road, you start benefiting the profits. But at least infrastructurally, you're sound. You have a lot more power if you have good infrastructure and you have invested a lot in your company. You can make, I think, better long-term decisions.
Well, a good way of summing that up is, you know, the higher the risk, a lot of the times, generally, the higher the potential reward, too.
Higher the reward, yes. And with Nestor, you see him not investing in his business. I don't see it, okay? I see him trying a bunch of different stuff. Like, his philosophy seems, I'll just dabble a little bit in each different thing, right? And if you want to be successful, I think that you have to focus on one task, do that to the best of your ability, and then move on to something else. Don't start 5 different things and spread yourself too thin. Also, that you're spreading yourself thin creatively, mentally, and financially. You know, that's when I talked about I told you Jim wanted me to start a trucking business. And I told him I did not think that was a good idea because I didn't have the money to invest in the infrastructure that we needed to get it started. If we could do 5 or 6 a year, I invest all the money that I make on doing other people's repairs into tools and more equipment for my shop to beef up my infrastructure, period. Just how I look at it.
Yeah. I guess from the outside looking in, and just to briefly kind of give some of my own background, I did own my own business from about age 19 to age 21. So it's not something I'm completely unfamiliar with. But when I look at it, kind of a conciliatory statement here, fair warning, when I look at you and I look at Nestor, the commonality I see is the entrepreneurial spirit. I mean, that's the overarching thing. And that is one thing you said to me. You mentioned that. You mentioned something else, too, that just what is it? Obviously, you know, at this point, the issues you have with him are well known, but what do you respect about him?
I respect that he probably was a young kid that came from no money. His parents weren't well off or anything like that. And I do believe he did work very hard, and he saved his money and he started his own thing, which is, a little bit of, I respect that a little bit, or, not a little bit, but quite a bit, you know. But then it seemed like he got influenced by some people that, you know, are maybe just a bunch of strokes and cult leaders, and he started spewing that off, you know, and that was the real disconnect for me. I have no room for, like, I would, that would be what it is.
Guerrilla, you're talking like guerrilla marketing, Mike Chernovich.
That guy.
Yeah, I actually I like that guy quite a bit because I think he's hilarious, and I tend to agree with some of the things at least that he does politically. But you talked about something necessary you thought to be successful in business that you thought Nestor had, and that you feel like you have confidence. Talk about that.
Yeah. So my opinion, to be a business owner or anything else like that, you have to, first of all, you have to believe in yourself more than anybody ever in the world could ever, believe in yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, without a doubt, when push comes to shove and things get hard, you have to be able to dig in and take all the pressure on your shoulders. If you get what I'm saying, like, you have to be in, I don't remember exactly what I told you. You probably do, but the guy does have a lot of confidence of himself, and he's probably dealing with a lot more stress and stuff like that than what we're really realizing.
Yeah, and I don't really want to revisit the numbers that he put out there. You and I discussed that because we both remembered that the same way. But when you talked about stuff not adding up, and I kind of looked at it and I thought, number one, you have a basically a built-in advantage on him, not just line of business wise, but geographically. You're in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's in Los Angeles, California.
Which is expensive.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. And it's also one of the most business unfriendly climates, probably not just in the United States, maybe in the whole world. I don't, well, I guess he's from there, has lived there most of his life. But I mean, from the outside looking in, I can't imagine what would compel me to want to run a business in that state. It would be terrible.
I can tell you that I lived in Temecula, California for 7 months, and it was the worst 7 months of my entire life. I would never open a business in California. If I was born in California, I would leave California and go somewhere in the Midwest and just start over. Just because geographically it's so difficult. You got. I think for most of the people out here that they're probably employees, not employers. Okay? Yeah. And when there is not a lot of people that can make that jump from employee to employer, okay? Not because of financially, it's because of mindset.
Yeah, it takes a certain personality and a certain mindset to do it. That's why when Nestor talked about the guerrilla mindset stuff, I thought that stuff is designed to pump entrepreneurs up and let them know, hey, you can do it, and try to give them encouragement. That's why I don't really have a problem with it when I hear a lot of that stuff spewed. I understand why it's there.
Yeah, I don't think that I need to read a book to decide that, you know what I'm saying? And I also don't need somebody telling me, because really the people that make a lot of self-help books, there's probably only 1 or 2 chapters that are really important. The rest of it is just bullshit fluff. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not really into bullshit fluff, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's an overlap there between self-help and business books and motivational stuff. I get that. I get where you're coming from on it. I get where I think he's coming from on it. But the bottom line is, again, to not to harp too much on this, but both of you guys have confidence in various forms of what you're doing, and you are both entrepreneurs. So I think that's something you guys probably have to respect about each other, even if you disagree with, you know, the route you take in order to get with the goal. At least you guys both have a goal. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I don't know what his goal is, and I think that the more that I watch his channel, I don't think he wants to be an auto tech or a shop owner his entire life. That's just what I get, because he keeps trying to transition himself into, like, you know, he's making this buy and sell Craigslist car book. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, I think he wants to get in, and he always talks about the one thing that he hates about the business that he's in now is he can't take it with him and go somewhere else, which I think is totally wrong. If he used YouTube to, what I talked about before, as an advertisement of the work that he could do, he could easily pack his stuff up and go to Arizona, or, you know, anywhere that he really wanted to go. He has maybe, you know, if he would use, he could take his business wherever he wanted to go.
Yeah, he talked about that. I guess one of the questions I meant to ask, and I'll ask here in a second, how much you still watch his stuff. But he talked about that early on with, you know, that was kind of what he saw for you know, the automotive technician part. He was interested in just refining his business model and then franchising based off of that.
Yeah, you know, I don't think that I don't think the franchise thing is what you're going to start as in an auto business. Usually those are like tire shops, but a mechanic shop and a mechanic style, what works in California may not work here. What works somewhere else may not work, you know, somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like, Eric O made a comment on Flat Race Masters that, you know, people from far and wide bring their cars to Eric O because of YouTube, not because of they heard of South Main Auto. You know, they want Eric O to fix their car, and he does it as a reasonable price. So, you know, that's what he said, and that his shop is backed up 3 weeks, and I do believe that, you know. But I don't think that you could franchise South Main Auto across the country because he can't be in every place at one time.
Yeah, we've actually had this discussion, not on my channel really, but Jesse, South Georgia Tools, he talks about this. He owns a franchise in Savannah, Georgia, and he's getting ready to open up a second outlet of the same franchise like 15 or 20 miles away. So, but you are right. I mean, the business model in Savannah, Georgia, you could probably travel that model to some extent, but you know, California is going to be different than Ohio, than Georgia, than Washington State, and so on. So
yeah, because you have different state laws there. You know, if you're running a lean program in California, well, here in Ohio, you can run a more aggressive program because the tax implications and some of the employee laws and state laws are not as violent.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, they're not as business hostile. I want to ask, because this kind of goes along a little bit with the debate station stuff and conversations with Nestor. We'll kind of transition off of that topic. Again, every time we transition, we don't need to be celebrated, and no one needs to give us an ESPY. Scan tools. This was one of the lightning rods of controversy in the history of Snap-on Junkie YouTube. What's your current take? You know, here we are, late July 2017. What's your current take on scan tools? How do you feel about scan tools now today?
Okay, I still feel kind of not as strong as I did. The reason that I made that video was a little bit of stick to show you that I do believe there's two types of mechanic technicians, okay? And what I mean by that is there is a nuts and bolts guy.
That's the mechanic.
That's the mechanic. And then there is going to be a problem shooting technician. And that's a guy that's going to be very fluent with scan tools, AKA AKA Keith from New Level Auto. That guy's probably the best around. Erico, very good. Scanner Danner. Those guys get excited about looking at an electronic waveform and trying to figure it out.
But
That's a developing skill.
And
right?
by way of clarification on this is a part of a longer conversation, much larger conversation that I've seen play out, and I wasn't aware of until maybe 6 or 12 months ago. But what are you? Are you a mechanic or are you an automotive technician? And that's what it breaks down to, is two camps. It's, the nuts and bolts aspect of it, or the diagnostician, electrical troubleshooting, more apt to use the scanner crowd. So that you kind of have opposing factions on this.
Yeah, where I am more I would like to work on a big engine. I like to take it apart. I like to look at hard parts and decide, is there a better way we could make this? Why did this fail? That's more exciting to me than looking at a wire and go, wrapped up in a fucking loom, right? And I got to find the purple with pink white stripe or hash marks or whatever wound through this car. It's got a cut in it somewhere, and I need this scan tool to help me figure that out. That's really what a scan tool is. And a scan tool to me is a guide, okay? It still takes, you still have to have some mechanical background to know how to change that part, because Erico and all these guys are still using hard tools to repair once they find it. You still need a 10 millimeter wrench or socket or ratchet to get the thing unbolted from where it goes in the sensor and all that stuff. It really, as things got more complicated, they had to give you something, and it's a scanner. And it seems like on YouTube, people only respect people that know how to use scanners and all that stuff. That seems to be like, the people that they like, not the hard part,
right,
heavy line type of job, where
okay.
I'm more of a heavy line type of guy.
Okay, and so you're officially putting yourself then in the I'm a mechanic camp of things, that side of the conversation. So next question is, what makes you say that? What is your experience? What is your mechanical experience? What is it that you did? What makes you say that? What's your history, essentially?
Okay, so like a lot of people went to a trade school or something like that. I didn't do that. I went to the school of hard knocks, per se, and I drag raced, okay? And drag racing was an extremely different lifestyle. I focused on one simple task, okay? And your job, if you give a shit, is to refine that task to the best of your ability. Now, you learn how to use tools and do all this different stuff there. Like, the more skills you have, the better you get paid, because you could do more. My skills were very good. I was an excellent parts reader. I could look at something and say, oh my God, this is going to be fucked up in this many runs, or this does not look right. My observant skills are very good. Like, that's what I'm good at. So I like to take, when stuff blew up, I would collect it all the time and analyze it in my own way, and then go to the crew chief later and say, hey man, like, I cleaned everything up and I'm looking at it. This has a different mark on it than what we saw last time it blew up, or the last time that we had this problem. Like looking at clutch disc, that is a skill of itself, to realize, Are your clutch discs getting too hot? Are they glazing? Do you need to put more cutter in it? Do you need to take less cutter away? How do you move these 6 discs in your inventory? How do you maintain that long term to have a successful outcome? Okay, that's what I look at as a mechanic. I like hard part R&D type stuff. A scanner to me does not do anything for me. I would use that as like a guide. Like, okay, this sensor's broke. I just need to go fix this sensor and it's fixed. To me, you didn't really think about when you plug in a scanner and it tells you this code, you didn't really think about that in your head, about why did this break or how to make a better part or anything like that. You're just replacing parts at that point.
Yeah. Important distinction here, point of order. I have to point this out because this dawned on me when you guys were doing the Big Six live chat, and it kind of blew up when they were talking about scanners. And you were sitting there over the conversation. You were pretty well done with it. Important thing to differentiate here: the automotive technicians in the group are arguing for scanners. You, a guy who works on big trucks and came from drag racing, where a lot of the time they basically, you're having to rebuild the engine after every single run practically.
No, you do.
Yeah. So of course you're not going to have as much use for a scanner, but I mean, you can't sit there and completely invalidate the use of scanners, because I mean, with a modern car, with any 2017, 2018 model car, the number of electrical systems and the number of possibilities for what's going on with that, you have to have those if you're going to do it professionally.
You have to, yeah, and I realize that, but I don't work on that type of stuff. So when I get like, what's your view take on a scanner? I don't need one, so I don't want to investigate into. And there's a million different scanners out there. Well, how do you know which was the right one to get for what your task that you want to do? They're really expensive, and they're a tool that goes obsolete after some time. You have to buy another one. So it's like, well, this is really stupid. I want something I buy once and have it forever. I don't need to, then you got to pay for an update. I mean, it's just a money grab situation at that point.
So for you're from the camp that if you ever ran into a situation like that, you're probably not going to want to go into figuring out what scanner you need for that. You're going to be the guy that hires Keith to come tell you what's wrong so that you can then fix that.
Yeah, because Keith could come 50 times is the price of that scanner once, right? If you had that scanner, you could hire Keith 50 times. I mean, I don't see the point of me going out and get one, or any person that's, doesn't do this for a professional level. What do you need? What home gamer needs a scanner, really?
Okay. Well, I'll say. So when you say, I don't need it, I don't have any use for it, you're not saying that no one needs it and no one should have any use for it. You're not invalidating the tool itself. You're saying, look, the learning curve on that would be way too steep for me. Here is what I do. I work on, I'm going to be replacing stuff or rebuilding engines on big trucks. It makes no sense for me to have that because I'm going to have to learn so much in order to use that. It's just simply not going to be worth the time out of my day for what I would do it for. I'm not trying to be a diagnostician like Keith is.
Yeah, I've watched Keith's channel and Eric's channel, and I've learned what you can do with a test light, and that can trouble. That's a good skill to have. Like, I've got a lot better with my electrical skills just by watching their channels. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, for me, the cost per use makes it not worth it.
Yeah, it's a business decision then.
Yeah. And so, like, people are saying that I could have gave that scanner away. That scanner was given to me by my Snap-on guy that thing was no good anyway.
I just looked down at my notes, and that was my last thing left on this topic. Was that was the rumor, was that the scanner was already broken, and I thought, well, of course it was. Why else would you?
Broken. I'll tell you what it is. So when Snap-on puts on promotional deals, they have like a scanner deal or whatever, where they'll lower the cost that it costs the truck guys to get scanners. Okay. And then they'll make them buy like 5 or 10 of them, and then they'll put a whole bunch of promotional items to get them. But what Snap-on does in that is they give the dealers these outrageous trade allowances. Okay. So that guy means he can take a 2010 Ecos in on trade, give the guy $2,000 for it, okay, on Snap-on trade allowance, and that guy gets to buy. It's a tool to help the truck guys buy new scanners, okay?
Right.
Or new scanners. So then what that scanner does is they have to, that goes into a database that if anybody tries to update the scanner or whatever, it's kind of, you can't do anything with it. Whatever software was on it. It would turn on and stuff like that, and you could look at stuff, but you could never update it again because the thing was only worth about $200, but my dealer gave $2,000 for it on the trade allowance, so he couldn't really do anything with it. So he gave it to me.
Huh. And the rest is automotive YouTube history.
Yeah, it was made to be like, hey, this guy's fucking going crazy, beating a goddamn scanner with a bat. You know what I'm saying? It was kind of like a conversation ender, like, don't come to my channel asking me about scanners anymore. But a lot of people didn't take it as that. That's what it was meant to do. And it was a shock value, too.
Yeah. Well, I was kind of surprised at the effect it had, because I viewed it, I thought, oh, okay, it was just something funny to do for a video. Man, I couldn't believe the number of people I saw who were like personally invested in the, physical welfare of that particular scanner. I thought, man, if you're going to get that worked up about it, you got to prepare for the rest of life.
I'm going to tell you stuff that in 3 years, the scanner that you paid $10,000 for, you're going to be putting it in an electronics crusher anyway, because it's probably not going to work. They're going to have something better. So, and then they're going to stop updating it. At some point, that's what it's going to be. It's like a cell phone. You got to think every 2 years they got to sell you a new one, or they're not doing what they're designed to do.
Yeah, there's a lot more manufactured, engineered obsolescence in any of that stuff that's electronic. I've looked at it, and I've talked with Keith back and forth about this. He keeps teasing me with doing the best $300 scanner you can buy video. He's going to do that at some point, supposedly, and I'm really interested in it because everybody's got their own threshold for what they're willing to spend on something. But those scanners that like the one that Nestor had, where it's like something like $20,000, or the Snap-on scanner that's a little over $10,000. Yeah, if you're Keith and that's what you're doing full time, you can make that pay for you, and you can afford the money you're going to have to spend on updating
the investment.
Right. That's infrastructure for them. But you made the point about you buy a Snap-on scanner 5 years from now, you're not going to be able to use it. You buy a Snap-on wrench 5 years from now, you still got a Snap-on wrench.
Still got a Snap-on wrench. That's what I'm saying. Or you still have that hardline tool that you still need after your $10,000 scanner tells you that the O2 sensor is fucked up. That thing is not just plugged in there. You need a special O2 socket wrench to get the goddamn thing out to fix it. Or you still need wire cutters and a crimper and heat shrink and a gun. You need all this other stuff to, properly do the scanner stuff too. That's why I look at Eric O, and he does the scanner stuff, and he still does hard part stuff. So that guy is, you can tell he's worth more than really what he makes, because he can do both jobs. He's an excellent person at both fields.
Yeah, and just full disclosure, Keith does that. Just for the record, Keith does that too. The only thing with Keith is that he keeps so busy and he's so in demand on the one, the diag end of the spectrum, that it's like it doesn't really even pay for him to do the hardline stuff as much anymore. But again, that kind of comes back to where you're at geographically and what the market demands and what the market can support.
I mean, it's still it's no matter if you have this, and I could understand maybe why somebody at home would want one, because if you take it in and they tell you that you have a PC 4867 code, they don't really tell you what the fuck that is or what part was fucked up. So a lot of people could feel that, still the old mechanic thing is that, you're ripping people off and all this stuff, and really there was nothing wrong with it. You just had to clear a code. And, so I could understand why maybe somebody at home would want one just to verify, they could run the code and look at it and say, okay, so when they tell me this number, I have a good idea of what that meant, theoretically.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I would see it.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good summary. I'm getting toward the end here. In just a bit, we're going to take questions. What's your relationship like with the big six? We kind of covered this a little bit at the top, but give a brief overview, historical overview of that, kind of where it stands now.
Well, I mean, okay, the only person that I really talk to on a weekly basis anymore is Joel. We talk a lot. I talk to Jay Young every once in a while when I call him and he's not too busy. I haven't talked to Dow in a while. Like every once in a while, Dow will call me early in the morning and just shoot the shit for a little bit. And it's just about, what he's doing with his channel. Do I think that's a good idea and all that stuff. And, Dow was a great dude. I don't talk to Garnett anymore, and I definitely don't talk to Bruce. I don't talk to him. But I think that's kind of, that's who I talk to. And, everybody has my number. Nobody's ever tried to call me. So, I'm not the person to reach out to a lot of people. I wait for you to call me.
Yeah. Okay. What about the debate station? Do you kind of want to briefly go into the history of that?
Yeah, we could talk about that. I mean, I guess when, Bruce said that he discovered me or whatever, we started talking, and he wanted to have this idea of a channel where it wasn't all about tools. It was more about doing he wanted to talk about broader things, all this other stuff. And I disagreed with that from kind of the beginning. I didn't think that was a good idea. I said, I said, Bruce, they know us as tool guys. They're going to ask us a lot of tool questions. They don't want to know our fucking feelings on a lot of other bullshit that's going on in the world. They're going to ask us tool questions. He's like, no, dude, we can switch it into this other stuff. And, I was just like, man, I don't think that this is going to work, and then it kind of a lot of people seem to like it because I thought, they wanted us to talk about tools together. That's I think that's what the viewers really wanted. And when you're not giving them that, it just lost, really, to me, I lost interest, and there was some other things, like I've told you, I take, if you say you're going to start at 8 o'clock or whatever, let's be ready to go at 8 o'clock. Let's not make people wait an hour, 2 hours, what I'm saying, just till you're ready. That's kind of why I stopped. And there was some other things too that I don't want to get involved with, but it was just, all stuff, just the inconsistency and really two different directions of what it should be.
Yeah, so that's essentially why you parted ways on that endeavor. It sounds like a lot of it is just kind of natural difficulties that different personality types face when they interact.
Yes, like we're two different people, and we have two different visions, and it's just like any other relationship. If you don't have the same life goal, or if you're with your girlfriend and you break up, it's still it's no different to me. Like that's what it was, and I went my separate ways. I didn't say too much about it. I didn't feel like I had to say anything about it, but you know, it is what it is.
Yeah.
Because I felt like what the debate station really wanted to be was like a Kim Star type thing. I think that's where Bruce kind of wanted it to go, where it was going to be always highly dramatized and everything drug out. You just drag everybody through the mud. And I personally really didn't want to do that because deep down I'm a nice person. I don't want to. I don't want to have to go there to tell you that your show sucks or your channel sucks. I kind of just choose to stop watching.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think I'll probably just drop it there then. Oso asked what happened to the money for the debate station.
I'm going to tell you, Oso, I never saw a dollar. That was another reason. Man, Oso, let me ask you this question. Where do you think the money went?
This isn't, we'll have to revisit that because with the delay, we'd be sitting here kind of brutal.
I'll in my opinion, things that were donated to the debate station were never used for the debate station. I'll leave you with that. I don't know.
I have to kind of ask if I can't really leave it there. And I mean, obviously it's your choice whether or not you choose to answer the question. But I mean, my question is, what was the arrangement ahead of time and what exactly are you talking about? I mean, you told me that those chats were pretty popular. And I mean, I was in a lot of them, probably close to half of them. But I mean, what was the financial arrangement ahead of time?
Okay, so when we started the channel, it was supposed to be a 50-50 thing, okay? And then I said, okay, well, if we do raffles, the people that come on, if they raffle their own stuff, they should get paid for that. They should not just be donating to our channel. Then it was like, okay, well, if it's just me and you, it'll be 50-50. Then we'll give, them like 40% as like a promotional channel thing. And I was like, okay, all right, that's what it was. But, I never saw, like when everybody donated for the mixer so we could take phone calls, none was ever bought. Okay. That was kind of the writing on the wall to me of what was really going to go on. And I was supposed to have access to do debate station where I could drive it from my house and use, like the PayPal link. We were supposed to jump back and forth, and that never came to fruition. Things like it was really about how can I use this person to make, use my name or my persona to make money off of YouTube, and hopefully this guy's too stupid to figure it out. That's what I really deep down felt, and I did not want to be involved in that. If you say something 50-50 to me, that means if I raffled something off for $200, I would have gladly sent you $100 of that money because you took your time out of the day to come on there and help me raise money or anybody else raise money. There should have been, I would never do another channel with anybody else without there would have to be a lot of trust.
So that probably goes back to, that's the reason you chose to sever the relationship. It sounds like probably from the outset it was at least somewhat convoluted. But if you say it was 50-50, was there any, that 50-50 people probably are thinking like in terms of profits, but what about expenditures? Were there any costs associated with starting that. Yeah.
No, there was no cost whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? You just go on YouTube, fire it up. I mean, nobody spent any money on anything. That's what I'm saying. There was never anything bought. Like people donated for a mixer, but that was never purchased. So I'm telling you, like, nobody bought anything. So there was no outgoing thing. It was all donations that went into one person's account. Now, what they used that money on for, that's up in the air. That was their decision. But, I never saw anything. I only saw money when I did one raffle on there, and I demanded my money before we got off the thing, and that was one of the last ones that I did, because I knew I would have never saw anything in the future. Never.
So I'll just pose Oso's follow-up exactly how he worded it. So you was involved in a scam?
That's what I felt like, yes.
Okay.
It was that's where it was going. I didn't want to be involved in that, and I still feel bad that I was involved in something that was not on the up and up, and I did not want. It was only a matter of time before the gig was up, and that would have made me look like a complete idiot. Because I care deeply about each person that takes the time out of the day to watch my YouTube channel show. Okay, period. And even if you're a troll or a hater, I still respect you that you came and watched my thing. And it's my job as a creator to not involve you in something that I feel is not on the up and up, if you get what I'm saying. I feel deeply bad for people that donated to the debate station. I don't know, I don't know how to get that point across. I felt it was not going to go in the direction that it should have been gone in. Okay.
Yeah. I've got to say this too, to kind of harken back into something we covered earlier, and just point out your YouTube business is tied to your real life business.
Yes.
And that's important thing to really highlight there. Like from my own perspective, if I was in that situation, I wouldn't want anything to endanger my regular business. And if you don't have everything, you get into a weird area where when you start soliciting money from people. Now, selling merch is one thing. If you're going to sell merch and the person, gives you $30 for a shirt or whatever, and you ship them that shirt and you can show that the person received that shirt, that's one thing. But when you kind of solicit money for kind of vague ideas and it's really up in the air as to how much money came in, how much money went out, where the money went, when your business is tied to that, there are really obvious liability concerns there. So, that's got to be one of the reasons also why you had to bail eventually.
Yeah, because I figured out what was going on. You know what I'm saying? Like I just felt like it wasn't right. And as somebody that, like I've said, I've never lied on my channel. I've never lied to anybody. I never took money. Like when I sold merchandise and stickers, I shipped everything to everybody within 1 to 2 days, period. Because nobody could come and say, hey, dude, you never shipped this stuff, ever. And then you're making, there was a lot of promises made that have not been followed through. And even still now, 6 months later, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know what kind of postal service they have there in New Jersey, but they can't lose just one person's stuff for 7 months. There's no way.
Yeah, and I will address this from a first person perspective as well, because it got awkward even for me. I'm not tied to that at all. other than just having been a viewer of some of it. But I had people come into my streams and ask me questions about it, like, hey, you got any idea where my stuff is? And I thought, no, I have no idea what you're even talking about. Then they explained. I thought, that was like 4 months ago. Are you serious? I remembered. I remembered what they were talking about, but when there's a pattern like that, I'll tell you my outlook on this. I've done a couple little giveaways here, given away a couple sets of screwdrivers and different odds and ends, and I'll send people magnets. I've never solicited money from anyone. I've never had, I don't put any information out there whereby anybody can give me any money. I'm not accepting payment. I'm not accepting donations. Even with all of that being said, the stuff that I'm sending to people for free, I'm like, getting the fairly expensive shipping. I'm, taking pictures of tracking numbers and emailing them as soon as I ship it. And I'm shipping the stuff next day. And that stuff they're getting for free. Why? Well, because I'm aware of how many online scams there are and how many scams have developed over the last 6 months just in automotive YouTube. And I think I just really want to be on the up and up. I want to be on the safe side here. I don't want to have any ill thing spoken of me in that regard.
Okay, well, I just looked here on the comments, okay?
Yeah.
So made a comment that luckily I didn't have Bruce do my sweatshirts. Now, he almost begged me to let him handle doing my merch. He would do all the vinyl and get my shirts made, and then we were going to split the profits. And I told him no. And ever since I told him that, I knew that something was going on. Like, why was this guy, because again, if it comes from my website, then I say, well, I'm sending it to this person. No. If anybody is going to do anything that has my name involved in it, I'm going to be involved in it. Like, I am going to do the shipping, or my wife is going to do the shipping, and it's going to be run through me, not through somebody on YouTube that's trying to, in my opinion, I don't know if this is the truth or not, but take advantage of people. I'm not going to be involved in that, not one bit.
Yeah, and you don't even have to. I totally get where you're coming from, and you have to err on the side of just safety and just, appearances do matter, and I'm sure there are, various explanations and whatnot. But the bottom line is, if your business is tied to it as well, there's a very obvious unnecessary risk and unnecessary danger there. That, it's totally understandable why you severed that relationship, so to speak.
Yes, and then the whole thing that's been what is the whatever you want to call it, MD Lee. I'm not trying to air people's dirty laundry out here, but viewers wouldn't ask that question if they didn't have an insight into. They already had formulate their own opinion about that. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I totally get where you're at. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess I'll open it up for questions at this point. I think also I've kind of already opened it up for questions, but we got probably I've got about another 15 minutes I could spend on here. If anybody wants to spit these out.
Yeah.
Also, I kind of thought he would show up as well, based on the comments that he left about a week ago after I released the last live stream with Junkie. Bruce, definitely had some opinions that he voiced in the comment section, but whatever. He's not here, so. Yeah. Also asks, what's your shop rent?
My shop rent is $1,500 a month, and I have the whole building. So there's another bay that I could use. I just never used it, and I have a lot of outdoor parking. So I could have about 7 or 8 trucks there, and it would still be $1,500. Which is, and I don't pay electric or water, so it's just $1,500, one lump sum.
I'm just kind of following along in the comments. There's not a lot of questions. How did you like that Harbor Freight impact? What you covered that in I think your most recent video, but what were your overall thoughts on that?
Okay, the gun is not that bad. Okay, do I think it's going to perform at that level for 5 years? Probably not. It felt, it's okay balanced. It definitely felt like the hammers didn't hit as hard as the Snap-on one. You can feel it in your hand. It didn't feel as torquey as they said. And I believe it's nowhere near close to the 1,100 foot-pounds. Breakaway torque. It's nowhere close. I would say it's probably in the 500-600 foot-pound area in reverse. It just can't. The motor's too small, and it can't move that type of volume to create that power.
Why haven't you started vaping?
Just because I tried vaping once before, and it hurt my throat so bad that it just dried me out, and I decided no. I do have to quit smoking, and I've tried before. I've made it like 7 months, I think, and then just the stress of life comes back. I'm not using it as an excuse, but just the stress of life comes back, and you pick it back up. Really, what I'd have to do is quit drinking alcohol, and I probably would not. I couldn't drive a truck anymore, because once I get in the truck, you get bored just driving around in the same circle. So you need something to do entertainment value on, or I would say the smoking habit is more of picking it up and putting something in your mouth, really, more than the actual cigarettes themselves.
Can you give general advice for a new CDL holder?
New CDL holder? General advice, yes. As a truck driver, your job is going to be not that difficult, okay? It's not like you're out there digging ditches or whatever.
Yeah.
So don't be a complainer. That would be my number one advice. And get the load there on time and do it in a safe manner. That would be my goals, or that's what I would tell you to do.
Who is Roxy?
Roxy? I have no clue what.
I think that's not really a question for you, if memory serves. Also asks, if I got a CDL, would you hire me?
Yeah, I would give you an opportunity. I've gave a lot of people opportunities. That's my job, is I have to find people, and I can either hire from some other company, or I could give new people a chance and see what they do. But yeah, if you pass a drug test, I'll hire you. Got no problems.
What's the pay differential like? A starting out driver, just give it roughly quick off the top of your head, but based on experience level.
Okay, experience level when you first come in. Now in the trucking business, in the dump truck business, we pay a little bit different than like miles, but you want to look into that. I wouldn't take a job any less than $18 an hour, or 25% of what the truck made. That's how dump truck gets paid. I usually start guys out at 26%, and then the more that you show me that you can show up on time, not tear up everything, you don't call and bitch about stupid little shit, that's how you get raises. And then if you want to be a top guy, you have to be, you have to be willing to work a triple, or you go that extra mile to become a asset to the company. That's how you get raises, to me.
How close are you to Chuck, aka the Junior Junkie?
I think I'm like 12 hours from Charleston.
Yeah, I guess I didn't mean, but that was a question for me. Actually, I snuck that in there. Not physical proximity wise. What's your friendship with him, or what's that like?
we're friendly. Chuck has my number, and I've called and talked to him a little bit. Chuck is a talker. You know what I'm saying? Like, I gave him some advice on his channel, how I thought he could do something different, because he really has people want to learn about how to do automotive interiors, and custom materials and stuff like that. But do they, they don't want to watch an 8-hour live stream. They want to watch 15 minutes of how you cut the foam and do all that stuff. That's what I've told them.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the quickest way to growth and the quickest way to some profit off of YouTube is probably a lot of the how-to stuff, because even if you don't get people that are super interested, they'll watch your stuff just kind of for general information on a certain subject, just to kind of have a peripheral awareness.
He has something there. He just, I don't know if it's because of time or, but 8-hour live streams, you're not going to grow your YouTube channel. And doing all live streams is not going to get you. If you want to make money in YouTube, you have to do videos and you can't do live streams every week.
Yeah.
There's no excitement.
Yeah. I can tell you that firsthand. Ken the Long Guy asks, what tool brand would you start to buy if Snap-on was to stop selling tools?
Man, I don't even know. Ken, I probably don't have to worry about that because it'll never happen. I don't know what I'd buy. I'm sure I would find something else, Well,
let me restructure that question a little bit. If Snap-on is the #1 brand for automotive hand tools in your mind, what would be across the board the #2?
In my mind?
Yeah.
It would probably be a Japanese company like Koken or Nipros. That would be what I'd buy. Either that or some German stuff. I like some of the Wera things, or Hazet would be another. Hazet makes absolutely everything. I mean, if you're a European like Mercedes, BMW, Volkswagen guy, you want to be buying Hazet shit.
Yeah.
It's expensive, but their stuff's really nice.
Can you run triples in Ohio?
Like triple trailers?
Yeah, I'm thinking that's got to be dry van if you do that, right?
Yeah, that's dry van. You can do doubles here. I don't think you can do triples. Maybe up on the turnpike from Cleveland to Chicago, you might be able to run triples, but I've seen a lot of doubles. I've never seen triples. You can drive them through, but it's not like out west where you can have, they got a lot of, it's just flatter, less people there on the interstate.
Yeah. Do you run e-logs?
No.
Just delve into that briefly, what you were telling me about the 100-mile rule.
Yeah, if you're in 100 miles of your home base, you do not have to log. So you don't have to keep a log book because you return home every day. That means if you work within, it's not you drive 100 miles, it's you draw a circle of 100-mile radius around your home base, and anything inside that you don't have to log. But I do keep daily log sheets of how many miles we drive and where the trucks go to and deliver. So if you pick up at, let's say, Sharonville, you write Norwood if you drop off near Norwood, or just a little, circles, just so everybody knows where it's going. And if the state ever asks,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Usually dump trucking, they don't really mess with too much.
Yeah. I think I'm probably going to use this as the, I'll also ask another technical question quick. What's the mileage tax there?
Mileage tax? You mean like IFCA tax?
Yeah, I'm guessing that's what he's talking about.
I have no clue. I know on a gallon of gas, it's like 28.9 cents. But I couldn't tell you. I don't know the mileage tax because my wife handles all that IFCA stuff. We've never had to pay I've got some returns before from IFCA, but that's it.
Okay. I think I'm going to use this as kind of the last question here because it's a fairly broad question. It's a good way of summarizing a lot of what we talked about. Do you make buku on YouTube?
Do you make buku money? No.
Yeah.
For the first 2 years, you got to think of, again, this is a business you're investing in. Your return on investment is going to be not very good because it takes to where you get, if you were doing like, let's say 100,000 views a day, you could make pretty good money. That'd be about $250 maybe, which isn't too bad. The thing with YouTube is what you want to do is get yourself, you want to be able to, there's money in merch and there's money in, doing content, like paid content, really, if that's what you want to get involved with. But I would tell you, be careful what you wish for if you do paid content, because those people own you and they can be kind of demanding on what they do. I've done one paid content spot and I don't know if I'd ever do another one, if you get what I'm saying. It's a lot of work for, what you kind of get out of it. It's difficult.
Yeah. Well, I think that's probably going to end it for me. I'm up against a hard deadline here in about 10 minutes anyway, so I think this is probably a good spot to end. But on behalf of everybody asking you questions and all this stuff, I mean, you and I have talked, and I already kind of knew a lot of the stuff that we talked about. But thanks for doing this. I mean, this was beneficial, and I think some people are probably going to watch this after the fact. But everybody here is appreciative of that. Even the haters, even the people who don't want to admit that they enjoyed this, and I know that because I have extrasensory perception.
Okay, I felt like what you're doing, MD Lee, is a good thing. If I could just talk for a minute, I think how you're kind of the behind the scenes guy on a lot of what's going on in automotive tool world channel. You've watched every one of them, so you kind of have your own synopsis of everybody. But it's good to come on and ask questions and figure out. I would be interested in watching, listen to other people tell how they got their YouTube channel to a certain level. I'm not bragging, but I mean, I did 6,000 subs in a really about 7 months period, and that's pretty good for a guy to come out of nowhere and do that. So I think there's a little bit to, my personality or how I do it. I haven't figured out the magic, put your thumb on it. This is what guaranteed works. I don't have all those answers, and I would love to have those answers, if you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am going to be doing this. I'm not going to commit to any certain timeline, but I mean, other people have expressed an interest in that, and it's something I'm interested in. It's kind of the same reason I did live streams to begin with. I kind of got browbeat into it, and I thought, well, I can't complain that there's not a chat box around to get into if I'm not willing to step up and put a little bit of extra effort into it myself. But this is beneficial information, and it is, it does kind of get everybody up to speed because it's an overview of the last 6 to 8 months as it relates to you. So you're getting numerous congratulations here in the chat box. Rob's Wrenches thanks you for the good Snap-on versus Earthquake video. Ken the Long Guy, etc., etc. But anyway, just thanks for doing this, man.
Yeah, no problem. And I'd love to come back and, do it again sometime. I mean, MD Lee, I've talked to you a couple times on the phone, and I really enjoy talking to you. You have a good perspective of, a neutral thing. You don't seem to be, fired up in certain topics, or you don't show it as much as, maybe I would.
Well, I mean, not to toot my own horn, but I mean, let's face it, a genius level IQ, a high self-starter motor, and ruggedly handsome good looks. I'm living proof of what that could do for somebody on YouTube. My 130 subscribers they'll have my back on that one.
Yeah, no, and hey, I'm subscribed to your channel,
Yeah.
just because I like to, when you talk to people and stuff that goes on in your chat, I feel people are more, again, it's hidden, but it's not really hidden. You know what I'm saying? Like, so you can come on here talking about certain things that maybe you don't want to spew on, your own personal channel or whatever. Because there's still a lot of other stuff that, I've told you that I would be willing to talk about. Like I've seen a lot of YouTube channels come, but the last question I'll leave from you guys is why has there been a lot of tool channels that came and disappeared? That's the number one question in my mind.
Yeah. I'll leave the viewers with that, and I know that we're going to pick up this conversation again at some point, so everybody kind of put that in your memory banks, but for now we'll call it a day.
All righty.
Thanks, buddy.
All right, no problem, man.
Yeah, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.